This tutorial has quite a bit going on, and you guys are really going to start getting into a lot of different parts of Illustrator within this tutorial. So you're going to learn how to combine some shapes together, how to group them together, and how to essentially create a bunch of different styles and shapes using some of the pre-shapes you've already made. So in order to do this tutorial, you will have to have finished your tutorial from episode 8, which has all the shapes. So you're going to need this shape page completed. So you will need to open up your worksheet from episode 8 with all the shapes. Make sure it's finished, and then open up the episode 9 one, which will be posted on the website as well. Once you have both of these open, you will see that up at the top you will have two tabs, one for 8 and one for 9. How you can get these to where they're open up at the same time next to each other is if you go to Window and then you go down to Arrange and you click on Tile. Now you have two worksheets opened up next to each other. Some people like to work like this, others like to flip back and forth between the two. For this particular exercise, you're gonna want both of them open. Now you don't have to have them open the same size. If you want to make the shapes one a little bit smaller so you have more room, you can. It really just depends on your comfort. But the reason why we need this one open is because we are going to copy some shapes from this document over to this document so you do not have to spend all the time redrawing them. So on this episode 9 worksheet, you'll notice that there are several shapes here that you need to put together that we've already created. So you're going to come over to your shape worksheet and you're going to click on the first one, hold down Alt, click and drag over to the new worksheet, and then release, and you will have your shape. Make sure you copy it over or you're going to end up deleting the one on your 8th one. So, and you're going to do this to each shape. So I got the diamond. Now I'm going to click on the square. It doesn't matter what color yours are. I just use green on mine because it shows up better and I like the color green. I'm going to move the diamond over. You can move the arrow keys to reposition it a little bit at a time, and then I'm going to move my circle. So now, once you have all these shapes arranged, you will notice that they kind of arrange in a certain order. The first one that I put on is on the bottom, and then the next one's on top of that, and then the next one's on top of that, and then the next one's on the very top. Let's say I wanted to change the order of this. There's a couple ways to do it. You can right click on the shape that you want, and okay, make sure you have it selected. Right click, go to Arrange, and you can send it backwards. So now it's behind the diamond. If I right click on it again, go down to Arrange and click Send to Back, that's going to send it all the way to the back. So now it's below. So you can do this to any one of these. So if I want to send this one backwards, so it's on top of the circle but below the diamond, you can do that. So you can mess around with this and decide which one you want on top. It doesn't really matter. You can also, under the layers panel, which if you don't have your layers panel open, you can go to Window, go down to layers and click on that and open that up. Under the layers panel, if you select your square, you'll notice that it lights up red right here. And that's because that is that shape. You can click on this layer and you can drag it. So if I put it all the way at the bottom, it's now below everything. So you can move these around. So I can take the circle one. If I select that, see how it's a little bit of a circle, and I can move that to the top, and now it's on top. So you can move your layers around, which is pretty helpful, but if you can't really see the image and you don't have them named, it can be a little messy. So it's a little easier just to click on the shape, right click, and go to Arrange, and either bring to front, just bring it forward one, backwards one, or send to back. So another thing we can do, since we have all these shapes here, if we click and drag, you can select all the shapes at the same time. A really nice thing about selecting multiple shapes at the same time is you can make changes to all of them at the same time. So right now I have a green stroke with a white fill. If I want to come over here, I can switch that to where I have a white stroke and a green fill. And I was able to do that to all of them at the exact same time. If I wanted to, I could turn the stroke off on all of them at the same time and just have some green circles. Or I can put a different color stroke on them all together. So it's really nice because you can change everything at once. Now, they're still individuals. If I wanted to group them together, that's another story. Right now, they're still ungrouped technically. They're just placed close together. And even when you select all of them, you still have them as individuals, but they are just selected as a group. There is a way to actually group them together where they will stay together. Another thing you can do with your shapes is I showed you how to select all of them at the same time and make changes to all four at the same time, but we can also make changes to just 2 or 3 of these at the same time. So if I select my square, hold down Shift, select the diamond, now I have 2, or the triangle, now I have 2 of the 4 selected. I can actually come up here and make a change to just those 2. Another thing you could do is if you select all of them, you can rotate them, you can enlarge them, you can move them around however you want, but right now we need to keep them the same. So now what you're going to do is you're going to click and drag, you're going to hold down Alt, and you're going to bring them over here. So you just made a copy of them. So the next thing we're going to learn is actually how to group these together. So I'm going to zoom in, bring that here. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger just so we can see. Okay, so we have our shapes here. Now if you click and drag over all of them, you can group them together. So you can right click and go down to group. And now, see how when I select them, no matter which one I select, it selects all of them because they are grouped. They are still individual shapes that we can individually edit, but right now they are grouped together. This is really helpful because we can very easily come over here and reset them. We can very easily change the colors of all of them. It's very easy to just select one and we can edit them all. Another thing is if you want to edit a specific shape within this group, all you have to do is double click on that shape. So if you notice I double clicked on the diamond and everything else kind of grayed out. It turned a little opaque and we now have this gray bar at the top. That means that we are only on this shape within that group. So now I can move this shape around, and if I double click on the white area, it brings me back out. And if I select my group, it's still a part of the group, but I had just edited. So if I double click back on here again, I can move it back to the spot that we need it at, and then double click in the white area. This allows you to make edits and changes without having to ungroup and then regroup every single time. If you want to ungroup the group, you select the group and you right click and go down to ungroup. You can also use the shortcut commands to group, which is Control G, and now we have a group, or Shift Control, click on it, Shift Control G to ungroup. And now we have individual shapes again. So I'm going to regroup these back up because I will need them grouped. I'm going to right click, go down to group. But remember, you can always edit these individually. If you double click on it, you can even change the color of just one object. You got to double click on it, change the color of just one within the group, and then when you double click out, it's still a group, but it's changed. So now you're going to hold down Alt, make a copy of this, and bring this down over here. Because now we're going to merge these shapes together. If you notice in this little outline, see how they're all merged together? That's what we're going to do. how we accomplish this is you have to go up here to Windows and you're going to open your Pathfinder toolbar. So if it's not already open, you're going to want to open it up. It looks like this. I'm going to drag mine out. If you want to see what the symbol looks like, the symbol looks like this little guy right here. So I'm just going to drag mine out because it's a very useful panel to have out. There we go. So the Pathfinder tool panel actually has a lot of really cool modes to it. It allows us to unite shapes together, as well as minus the front, intersect, minus or exclude, divide, trim, merge, crop, outline, and the minus the back. So these can be really helpful. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on this group, and we're going to click on the very first one, which is Unite, because if you look at the image, it kind of shows you a little bit of what it does. So it's going to bring them all together as one shape. So if we click it, it will then merge them all together. So now they are technically one shape. And if you want to undo that, Control Z to undo that. I'm actually going to move the diamond over a click or two. And then when I select my group again, click Unite, now I've kind of got it where it's all touching, it's going together. So I like that better. So it's very easy to merge them together where you can create these new shapes. So it's really important to note that once you have united the shapes like this, it is no longer individual shapes. You cannot double click on this and edit the individual shapes. They are all grouped together. It is one shape now. So anything you do, whether it's changing the color, lowering how wide the stroke is, or making the stroke completely transparent, it is all done as a group and you cannot alter or change it. Now, one thing you will notice, if you click on it, the stroke a little wider, if we use our direct selection tool, you'll notice all the anchor points are now changed. And you can edit individual anchor points, but you cannot edit individual shapes anymore. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this group, hold down Alt, and we're going to bring it over here to this new vector graphics. So we're going to learn how to do some different effects to our new shape. So there's some really good reasons to why we would want to combine our shapes. One of the reasons is some of the effects that we can put on them. So you're going to need to open up your color panel, which is your swatches. Colors, there we go. So our gradients are missing. Okay, so if your gradients shapes are missing, which basically they are one swatch where it goes from like white to black, then you're going to have to open it up. So you're going to want to open your swatches panel. So the swatches panel looks like this. If you do not have your swatches panel available, go up to Window and go down to Swatches and then open it up. Once you have it opened up, you will come to the little lines here, which is your menu lines. You're going to go down to Open Swatch Library. You're going to go over to Default Swatches and you're going to click on Art and Illustration. It's going to open up a new panel of swatches and you see these little gradations. They go from like white to black and from a gold to a yellow. So how it's really effective with your shapes is if you click on your new merge shape and you click on one of these gradients, you will see how it goes from the orange over to this yellow. This is called gold dust. And let's go and change the outline to transparent. So now we have this nice shape with this nice gradients that goes through it. Now you'll notice it's through the entire shape. If we come up to this group up here and we apply the same fill, you'll notice that it does it to each individual shape. So even if we remove the stroke on here, you can see how it's different. Each shape looks individual. So if this is the type of look you're going for, then you want to keep the shapes separate and you do not want to unite them together. But if you want it to where it looks like the gradients goes all the way across, you're going to want to unite them together. And what's really nice about this is even when you change some anchor points, it's going to adjust the gradients for it. So the next thing we're going to look at is a shape builder tool. So I'm going to zoom out here. I'm going to come up here to grab my selection tool. I'm going to highlight my ungrouped ones, hold down Alt. I'm going to make a copy of them here. Then I'm just going to reset it back to black and white by clicking on the two little boxes here. I'll zoom in on it. So now we're going to use the shape builder tool, which is right below, there you go, right below the puppet warp or your free transform tool. So it's going to be right there. It's this weird little circles with the arrow on it. So you're going to click on that. And what this allows you to do is as you hover over, you'll notice that it kind of grays in each shape. But not only does it gray in the box, but it also shows us where all the overlaps are and those individual shapes that make up those overlaps. The shape builder tool is really cool because it allows us to merge certain shapes together. So if we want to merge this diamond and this triangle together, if you are in the shape builders tool and you click in the diamond and you drag down, there you go, a little line will appear, and now these shapes are compounded together. If, let's say, we wanted to create this little overlap here as a shape, we just click on it, and now we have a shape. If we use our selection tool, we can actually drag this shape out, and now we have a new shape. So now what you've done is because you've merged and kind of sliced some shapes, you can actually move these around and you have some new shapes and you can separate them all out. So this is a great way if you're working on a piece of art and you want to be able to divide it up to create some negative space. You can easily do that with this shape builder tool. Kind of allows you to line things up, use your negative space in a creative way. Okay, the next thing we have to do is we're going to work on our next vector shape. So I just zoomed out. I'm going to select my vector that's filled with a gradient up here, hold down Alt, make a copy of it. I'm going to fill it with our default color, so I'm just going to come over here and click on this black and white. Then I'm going to go back to my episode 8 worksheet. I'm going to grab the circle, hold down Shift, grab the star, and grab the polygon. I am going to hold down Alt. I'm going to bring them over to this document, make a copy of them. And then holding down the Shift key, I am going to shrink them down and I'm going to change them to default. And I'm actually going to fill them with black. So I'm going to make it to where it has no fill with a black stroke, and then using my little arrows, flip it to where I now have a black circle, black star, and black polygon. So now I'm going to take these objects and I'm going to move them over. Now, if it's on top, if all your objects are on top, that's awesome. However, if, for example, maybe some of your shapes are below, then what you're going to do is you're going to click on your group, right click, go down to arrange, and click send to back because you want the 3 black shapes on top. Okay, I'm going to use my selection tool and I'm going to hold down Shift and make the star just a little bit bigger. And you can kind of just position these a little bit in the centers. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all, hold down Alt, make a copy, bring that down over here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our Pathfinder tool and we're actually going to use this exclude tool. So what that allows us to do is it allows us to actually cut out these black shapes from the original shape. So I'm going to click and drag and select all of them, and then I'm going to come up here to the exclude button. Now you'll notice it turned the shapes black, and then the other shapes are actually white. Now they are not actually white, it is actually see-through. It has cut a hole. So it merged all of these shapes together as one shape, and then it cut holes to make the other shapes. So if we go over to our gradation tool and we put our gradients on it, you will see that there's actually no shapes there. See how you can actually see through it? That's how you know you did it correctly. If you can't see through it, you did not do it correctly. So let's say you guys want to make some modifications to our star here. If we zoom in, you'll have to use the direct selection tool, which is your white arrow, and you'll notice you can click on the points and move them around. Now, if we don't want to distort the star, you need to select an anchor point, hold down the Shift key, and select the rest of the anchors. Once you have them all selected, you can use the arrow keys and you can actually move it around. Same with the circle. If I wanted to move this over a little bit, I can select on that, hold down Shift, select on the other anchor points. Make sure you get them all. They will be dark once you've selected them. If they're white, they're not selected. So there, move that over just a tiny bit, and we're good to go. So for the last shape, what we're going to do is we're going to use our selection tool, select our shape, hold down Alt, make a copy of it. So now we're going to do our new vector shape with a gradient stroke. So all you're going to do is simply come over here and you're going to swap our fill and our stroke colors to where now you have a gradient on the outline. And I'm going to bump the stroke up a little bit so it's thicker so you can actually see. So you can actually see that there is a gradient that goes across this stroke now. So you can change the color and everything like that of the stroke as well. When you are done, you should have a document that looks like this. Your colors may be different, but overall you should have that, and your shape may be in a different order, however you arranged it, but this should be your document, and you're going to use the snipping tool and you're going to take a screenshot of this and you're going to turn this in on Google Classroom.